Hi, everyone. Welcome. So glad you could join us today to AREAA's commercial webinar. My name is Ritu Rani, and I am the commercial vice chair for AREAA. And, I just wanted to say thanks to our leaders, James Huang, who's been doing a great job of leading us through these very unprecedented times, and Naveen Patange, who is our commercial chair, who's been, helping with really growing the commercial aspect of AREAA, and our fearless leader, Amy Kong, who's about to take over in October, for all her support. And I'm excited to be the commercial chair under her. So thank you all. AREAA has done a great job at delivering information to our members, and I'm really happy to be part of this organization. And this webinar today, you don't need to be a member, so if you have friends that are interested in the topic of hospitality, you can please share the link and ask them to join us. Maybe by the end they will join and they'll become members, because we've got a lot of good things going on in the near future. We've got our national convention that's happening October 14th through the 16th. So for that and for becoming a member, you can go to our website, areaa.org, that's AREAA.org, and sign up. So, with that, let's get started on the focus of this webinar is hospitality and what's happening in the specifically the lodging industry. So, when I was putting this together, I was thinking I really wanted to provide to you a good perspective on what's happening. So we were lucky enough to get great panelists. We're here with Biren Patel, who is the president of AHOA, and he's going to tell us, more about what all of the hotel owners feel about what's going on. And then we've got Ken Patel, who is the regional director of Global Hotel Group, and they own almost 80 hotels, and they're very strong on the management side. They have, a lot of relationships with all the franchises, sorry. So, they know exactly what's going on, all the rules, exactly what's changing. So we're going to get that perspective. And then we've got Shahid Jaffrey, who is managing to finance hotels in this crazy market. And he knows all about, are the banks being nice? Are they not being nice? What are they doing? Relief, all of that. So we're going to get that whole perspective from all of our panelists. I just wanted to give you a 30-second on me, and then, everyone can give a 30-second on them, and then I'll start to get into my questions. When I'm not wearing my AREAA hat, I am a commercial broker. I focus mostly on hospitality. I do some multifamily and some land. And I recently was asked to become the hospitality chair for Sperry, so I'm very excited to take that on. And my background is really corporate. Before getting into commercial brokerage, I used to work for Disney, for Time, for Kerzner. They own the Atlantis Resort. So if I can ever be a resource to any of you, please feel free to call on me. I'd be happy to help. So Biren, why don't you kick it off and give us a little bit of background, and then we'll go to Ken and then Shahid, and then I'll start my questioning.
Thank you, Ritu. I appreciate AREAA and you, Ritu, for including me in today's panel. I know we've worked in the past, and I appreciate you, again, for involving me in today's hospitality panel. Biren Patel, I'm the AHOA chairman. AHOA is the largest hotel owners association in the world. Our members own almost 1 out of every 2 properties in the country. We're at almost around 20,000 members. And, we're here in some uncertain times, and we're just trying to help not only our members out, but the industry out, how to navigate through the road to recovery. Thank you again for having me.
Great, thank you. Ken?
I mean, I can't top that.
No, it's a hard show to top, but you can hold your own, so.
I'm Ken. Obviously, last name is Patel. I've been in the industry about 22 years. I would say different markets, and currently with Global. I came on board with them in January, and I saw a lot of positives. Growing very fast, but they've got a lot of examples of how companies should operate. So, I've been doing this a while. I feel as the industry changes so much that it kind of just put me in the place to be where it is. I was used to more of the Northeast market and New York City, but I'm here, and I got to thank you, Ritu, for bringing me on the show and putting me in front of these two guys.
Of course, of course. Well, hopefully there's a lot more to come. So, Shahid.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Ritu, for allowing me to join this panel. I'm looking forward to being on it with both the gentlemen that just spoke. And yeah, I'm here. I run Jaffrey Capital, which essentially navigates the private debt markets within the hospitality sector. And we work very closely with a mortgage bank in New York that executes conventional financings. And we somehow got a ground up Holiday Inn Express done about last month. It was a war, to say the least, but just here to give some insights. It's not pretty, but I think there are ways to navigate strategically.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start here. We've got a $500 billion plus industry, and all of a sudden COVID happens. I know it's old news, but it's not old news. And according to the AHLA, the U.S. has lost over $6 billion from the beginning of this COVID till now. So we've got a lot of hotel owners kind of scrambling. And, I really wanted to start with Biren and ask him, what are the biggest challenges that the hotel owners are facing right now? I mean, is it like the check-ins, the electronic check-ins? Is it retaining employees? Is it the safety of the staff and the guests? Like today, not 3 months ago, not 6 months ago when this whole nightmare started. What's happening right now? What are they most, panicked about or stressed about? Or what's the most challenging thing for the hotel owners right now?
It's a little bit of everything. I think that, you mentioned some of them, but I think that where we're at now, I think hoteliers are feeling the liquidity crisis, right? How to stay afloat, to keep the hotels open in these tough times, right? I think that a lot of our hoteliers had received some kind of forbearance that is coming to an end or has come to an end. So it's how can we during this time still keep the doors open as we're trying to have that upward trajectory where occupancy starts coming back up, right? So we're obviously trying to work with the government to have some more relief for hotel owners. And I think we'll go over here in a little bit, but I think liquidity is one of the biggest concerns we have. And then as you mentioned, right, staffing, making sure that our guests feel safe to travel again, making sure that our properties are, using the right protocol from CDC guidelines to our brand guidelines to make sure that we're creating an environment and atmosphere where they feel safe to, stay at our hotels.
Well, let me ask you something just about expenses. Some of the expenses have gone down because people are not, changing the sheets on the beds as much. They say don't come in for the next 5 days of my stay. I'm okay. So the housekeeping costs have gone down. But then there's stuff that, I'm reading on all these bulletin boards, like the hotel owners, the smaller ones, they don't want to pay for the hand sanitizer stations, because it's an extra expense for them, and it does add up. So, what kind of things, like what are you seeing like on that side? Are the expenses generally increasing or have they gone down for the hotel owners?
So, as you mentioned, yes, we might be saving some on the housekeeping end, right? But there's obviously, we're incurring costs on other ends, like personal protective equipment, as you mentioned, right? Whether it's masks, hand sanitizing machines, right? All the chemicals that we have to use to make sure that our common areas are clean and up to par so people do not transmit COVID. And so that's obviously incurring costs, but that's the thing, that's the way of doing business right now. If we want to make our customers feel comfortable coming to our properties, we're going to have to spend the money. I just ask that, some of the brands kind of mandate us to kind of go to a certain buyer to purchase these equipments where we could possibly find another company who can get the same product for cheaper. So as a
Right.
hotelier, we're trying to cut costs as much as we can, right? And so we would rather go to this, get the same product from somewhere else cheaper.
Right.
We understand that we need these things to make sure that we're creating a safe environment for our guests and our employees. But as we incur this cost, we want to also mitigate the cost where we can.
Right, so the economies of scale. So, Ken, let me ask you then, are the franchises helping any, or are they just increasing the prices for people? Are they helping get these discounts? Are they letting up? Are they giving protocols? What are they doing?
I mean, as we kind of spoke previously, and I think everybody kind of agreed to this, they're going to hold pat to what they do, and they're not going to want to tweak anything, you
Mm-hmm.
know, nor do they think they have to tweak anything. So I think they're a business, and they're going to treat it like a business. So we can ask them for certain things. I mean, obviously, they're going to give you some leeway and some breaks on franchise cost. And right now, I believe they think they're doing us a favor by eliminating the breakfast. So, you know, uh,
Well, how is that going over, the elimination of breakfast?
I think I call it a temporary hold.
Okay.
So as it's a temporary hold, it's going to come back. It's not a permanent solution to any means at all. It's just I mean, all these things are just a tape. They're tape on putting just some sort of tape on it, and then let's try to see what happens. But there's really no benefit right now. The amount of money that's being lost on a monthly basis, on weekly, and even if we look at a T12 trailing 12 months, nothing is going to make that up. I mean,
Right.
there's not $1 or one area that we look at and it's going to say we're going to bring $2 million back per hotel. It's just not going to happen. But they're not going to say that we'll give you 2 million. They still know the guests are coming in, and these new compliances that get added, it just adds more to the expense.
So
You know,
what are some of the new compliances that they've added?
I mean, let's say for instance, Marriott's got the electoral sprayers.
Okay.
IHG's got mandated hand sanitizers in public area locations. Hilton's got with Lysol, so you're buying quite a few items of Lysol, whether it's actually the stick-ons on the doors, Lysol's product. I mean, I knew personally that when they collaborated with these companies and each of them got with bigger companies, it was more that who was going to end up paying is the hotel owner. They were going
Mm-hmm.
to end up paying that cost, whether they paid Lysol X amount of dollars.
Right.
I mean, it just came down to it, but we needed consumer confidence, so no one's going to argue that. The consumer confidence has to be there. So no one's just going to say, no, don't go with Lysol. And even if anyone did say that, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But, there's I guess to just kind of speak about it a little further is that we don't have a break. There's no break, but yes, they're gonna give us discounts here and there. So it's not like they're not 100% helping us out, but they're helping in a way, but it's not a long-term solution because I mean there are gonna be hotels that are not gonna be in a portfolio anymore. And that's just gonna happen because they don't have the long capital like other companies might have. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's unfortunate, but that's kind of the industry we're in, and no one's giving a bailout for that.
Yeah,
You know,
speaking of bailout now, so you guys have both said, okay, so it's hard right now for the hotel owners. No one's giving a bailout. Why are people, Shahid, tell me why, and also Ken, you guys are trying to get to 80, 85 hotels by the end of the year. Why are people buying? Aimbridge just added 40 hotels to their portfolio. You guys are adding hotels to your portfolio. I'm getting calls every day. Can you find me hospitality product? What's going on? Why are people still looking to get into this? If it's, Star Report is projecting, I think it's 34% loss of RevPAR for 2021. Why do people still want to get into this business if it's looking so bad?
Well,
Shahid, Ken?
yeah, I
I'll
think,
try to go. No problem.
yeah, I'll just touch. I think right now, urban locations are going to be strong, and that's why there's a lot of distress right now in in certain cities. And from a corporate account standpoint, I think a lot of the guys that I'm working with are really shifting away towards tourism and really focusing on the need within these, say, cities of conferences and so forth. I mean, the middle market is tough, right? So there's really, we haven't really found a need, or not a need, any lenders or even equity investors that are trying to bail out or put their money in. But like Ritu is getting calls on the sales side, we're getting calls from private equity for recaps and so forth. But I think under the 100, a key number is very important. They're light value add. Really, people are not looking for heavy repositionings. And to my perspective, this can't happen forever, right? So when things do get back, you really have to look at the operating businesses and seeing which brands are prepared to perform in the next generation. And in my opinion, the brands that shift towards, focusing more on stuff and related to wellness and making these hotels essentially safe, and getting people comfortable, we could be okay, but I think it's a 2-year turnaround.
Ken, you have anything to add to that?
I think everyone's mindset, it's a discount. It's like you walk into a dollar store and you think you're getting a discount, but you're not getting the best product, and that's kind of where everybody's mindset is, that they can go buy a hotel right now and they're going to do well, but it's a coin toss because you're not comparing it to anything. You can't go do a feasibility study and say the guy that comes out there and is going to know that you're going to have 70% occupancy next year, or you're going to have 60% occupancy. So, I mean, how are you pricing the product? So that is probably the biggest question. But that's not what people think. Hoteliers, I mean, they're focused. So they're always thinking, okay, I'm going to buy the next thing. And their next thing could be the winner, or it could be the Chicago Bulls of the 2000s and not the 90s,
Right.
So, I mean, I hear from the Northeast a lot. I have a lot of friends up there that tell me, they're like, you know what, I'm going to go buy this today, but I want to buy something in the South because I'll get a better discount than the North. And I truly believe that's not true anymore because I live here. So I know that's not true. And I tell them that all the time. And then there's people that really want to sell their product now and are just doing owner financing like you wouldn't believe it. They're basically giving it away. They just don't want to deal with it.
But you say that, but then Global Hotel Group, they're purchasing. You guys are purchasing properties, and you're not getting them at a super discount. Why are you still in this game?
I think it's and I don't want to speak for Global what they do, but
Okay.
I love
Global
them.
aside, why
Yeah.
do you think that hotel owners are still, or prospects are still looking to purchase when they're not getting that quote unquote COVID discount that they're expecting to get? Because I haven't seen a lot of price drops in the last couple of months. Seen people thinking they're going to get the COVID discount of their life, but I haven't seen those COVID discounts yet.
Yeah. And I'll probably just say one thing about Global is they're aggressive. So they've got that aggressive niche to them where they're focused and aggressive. So kind of leave it at that. But, I would say everybody knowing this industry for such a long time is we get the itch. We just get the itch to buy it. It's like, okay, we know there's something out there. We just want to buy it. We just want to put our hands into it. And hopefully we'll think it does well. We have everything that backs it up that does well, but I don't think the buying is going to stop. I mean, you could say tomorrow that the occupancy is at 10%. That still won't stop people. That won't stop the buyers, and that won't stop the sellers. It's just, it's gonna be like that. I mean, they're looking at the different markets. I mean, you look at China's market, you know, it overcome the deficit and it overcome a lot of things. Here, you look at, you know, the Florida market, you know, like basically Florida shut down. They're not letting travelers in. I mean, they're a different country than the United States of America right now. So, you know, I mean, it just so happens, but there's occupancy. And like
Yeah.
you said, you know, if there's 34% occupancy on a star, I mean, you're saying 1/3 of the people are still traveling, you know? So, I mean, we're not that far off.
Well, I mean, I will say, as far as occupancy go, I was just reading that the occupancy rates, at least down here, over the weekends are actually up year over year. So, you know, there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know if any of you want to tackle this, but, you know, group travel is down. It's more leisure travel and weekend travel. And, you know, I was looking at the star reports. It looks like the ADR over the weekends is holding up. It's actually not going down. So I don't know, Biren, have you, as any of your constituency, have they talked about that they're actually doing okay in one part of their business, or it's just like gloom and doom?
Yeah, I've heard, you know, definitely the economy segment and extended stay segment, right? They have fared decent throughout this entire pandemic, right? I think that, as you mentioned, the weekend leisure travel is even in the rural markets and somewhat of the urban markets are doing pretty good on the weekends, because people have been so bogged up in their homes for a couple of months that they're willing to take these staycations and places that are driving distances to go spend the night, you know, or the weekend. So that's where I see why the weekend business has still remained same or even higher than previous, because corporate travel, as we all know, has pretty much been shot, right? But as you said, the leisure travel is still staying consistent, and some places have even done better than last year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm seeing that. Ken, you know, I know you manage the full service market, and we've all been reading, you know, the extended stay and the select service is doing a little bit better. What have you seen in the full service market?
Well, I mean, with Global, we're actually obviously doing that project, so I'm not really doing the full service. But I mean, my entire life I've been doing full service. And
Ken, I can't hear you. Can you
hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So, with Global, we're obviously doing the full service project, so I'm not really managing it with them currently. But
Okay.
you know, I've been doing full service for over 10 years, and to just know and help few friends out that own full service right now, I mean, it's a huge hit. I mean, when you're talking F&B, and I mean, that might as well make it a select service at that point if you can't operate the F&B, you know? I mean, they're not making anything.
Right.
It's just, it's horrendous to say that to have the F&B portion close or limited, you're not giving, the guest is not getting an experience anymore. They're basically getting a room and that's about it, you know,
Right.
but they have to pay 140 to even above 150 a night when they could go stay at a Holiday Inn Express for 109.
Yeah.
So,
No, for sure.
you know, I think, and you and I, we've spoken about the full service on the other aspect of things there. And, you know, but it's tough. I mean, if people want to build a full service right now, and it's kind of, things are up in the air, but I would say longevity wise, it's going to be tremendous. I think, and I keep saying it about this industry, and I've put the date as March 5th, 2021. And I think that is going to be the date that this industry comes back alive.
March
That's
5th. Okay, guys, mark
March
your
5th.
calendar.
Yep. March 5th, 2021. That's the date I have. And, you know, that's where I think it'll hit it. We'll be in a 1-year kind of turnaround, because that's exactly the time frame that this all started. And I remember that date exactly because my wife's, I mean, not my wife, my daughter's birthday is March 5th. So we didn't get to have her birthday party at all this year. So I promised her next year, March 5th,
You're gonna do
2021.
something.
Yep, when the hotels come back alive. But a lot of my friends, I mean, I have a friend up in New York City that owns a hedge fund, and he kind of gave me a little scoop here and there of what he feels like is going to happen in the next 3 to 4 months. So I'm confident. I think March is going to be the month, that where we're going to be able to turn everything around. But it's horrible. I mean, I feel bad for people right now. It's just, I mean, especially when we go back to saying full service, man, I don't even know how they're making their GP at the end of.
Yeah, well, I've got two questions actually from people that are listening in right now while we're on this topic about rebound. One is, when do you anticipate business travel to rebound in the U.S.? And then when business travel rebounds, this is from someone else, do you expect travelers to head back towards their higher respected brands that are part of Marriott, Hilton, and IHG versus Choice and Wyndham? Like, what do you guys think?
I think April is when we'll really see a vaccine. So I think for any corporate travel, that's why it's a good. Byron said how the leisure is doing well, because the money is looking at it the complete opposite, which is always a confusion, right? So I think the corporate travel is not going to move until there's a vaccine, just so that these guys are essentially protected. And from what we're hearing is April when that really comes. So kind of similar to what he just said in March, April. I think post second to third quarter 2021, we really should see the corporate businesses getting back into the flow. And again, this is just my opinion. I do think they are going to steer towards the higher brands in urban locations, just because of the reality where I don't think the hospitality, I think it's going to make a very strong comeback, but I do think it's going to really come down to operators and management. It can't just be people that are buying hotels and having a couple here and there, or you're really going to have to be running tight ships. And like you guys said, managing costs, when it's maid service and food service, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you name it. It's almost going to have like an internal investment banking department operating the hotels. And that's just my opinion.
And how about the brands? Ken, Biren, any thoughts on the brands? Are they going to go back to the higher end brands, or are they going to?
So there's a couple of opinions I have here. I think that I don't know I don't want to predict when corporate travel will
Okay.
But I think that it's going to be interesting to see that when it does resume, how many companies cut back and let their employees still continue doing this virtual Zoom thing. Will the companies feel like they can still achieve the same result instead of having to spend corporate travel cost for their companies to go out and meet their clients or whomever, instead of just keep doing this virtual type thing that we're doing now, right? So it's gonna be interesting to see who still keeps this trend going, or does the country still require that in-person engagement, right? It's gonna vary. I'll tell you, my wife's company, they're not traveling. They've already made their thing for this year. They're working from home for the remainder of the year. Now they'll reevaluate.
And this is in Dallas?
Yeah, in Dallas, right?
Okay.
At Citigroup, right? So different companies have already made something, regardless if travel, regardless if the economy picks up or not. They've already said 2020, we're not traveling, right? Now, the second part of your question about the brands, as far as will this corporate travel still go to the same brands they were going to prior? I think, everybody will still be price conscious, because even the big companies are looking at, how much they'll have to go on their budget and what they're allocating for the 2021 budget and so forth. But I think that, rewards members try to stay loyal to certain brands. I think that when we come out of this, or when we're trying towards the upward trajectory, I think that people will still probably go to the brands that they're accustomed to going, long as they can fit it in their budget.
Okay. Ken, do you want to add anything, or should we?
I mean, I think Baron and Saeed both said it well. I mean, even Baron saying that the consumer is not going to change. I don't think you're going to have the consumer go to a Hampton Inn and then all of a sudden they're staying at a Comfort Inn. You know, I mean, that's just not going to happen. But I mean, I really think that we're going to lose ADR and we're going to lose tremendous dollars with ADR. You know, the
Yeah.
growth that was there for 8 years in a row with ADR and occupancy was flat, that 80, it's going to reverse course there. I think we're
Yeah.
going to lose ADR and gain occupancy, and that only means labor cost is high.
Right.
So, I mean, things of that, but for travel to come back, it's probably going to take a lot. But, you know, the bigger markets are not going to suffer. You know, the big markets, whether you're talking about Houston, Atlanta, New York City, Chicago, LA. I mean, these markets, they're just not going to suffer. But then you're looking at middle markets, probably will, you know, and it's gonna be tough. I mean, I live in Alpharetta. I know this is the Silicon Valley of the South. You know, I mean, you all the techs are shut down. Verizon sent everybody home. They said work from home. I mean,
Right.
another company over here. But I mean, it really just comes down to, like Baron was saying, is that who's gonna send their employees to work
Right.
instead of having them work from home. I think they got comfortable. They know their budgets are low now. There's no travel. So
I
Okay,
think
well, let's.
I'll jump
I'm
in
sorry,
here.
go ahead. Go ahead, Shahid.
Sure. Yeah, the work from home and what I think companies are going to start to realize, it's going to increase a lot of turnover because the what I'm seeing too with a lot of companies in Manhattan is they're opening up their eyes, and if you keep there's really no growth within an organization. So I think from home can only also work for so long, right? How do you grow someone's career uh, from a screen? And I think that is where businesses are really going to come to reality, because is it saving them money? Yes. But is it really helping their people, or are their people actually growing being in that environment? So I think that argument is going both ways. And I think that'll be something to really look into.
So if I may, I think that
Yeah, yeah.
Shahid makes a good point. You know, I think that you know, some people look forward to going into the office every day instead of
Right.
working from home, because, you know, their social life, their peers, their coworkers, that's their social life. They made friends in it. So psychologically, are people bringing in their A game working from home? Some might not be, right? They
Yeah.
need to be in that environment of a corporate, you know, office type atmosphere where they engage with other people, coworkers, to bring the best out of them. So, you know, some bosses probably see that, you know, their teams are not bringing their, you know, the best that they could because of the situation that they're surrounded in by being enclosed at home or wherever they're at. And then the second point that I want to bring up was Ken was talking about ADR. You know, I feel like we've gone back to maybe even 2005 ADR.
Yes, we have.
And
Star reports.
so, as Ken mentioned, you know, in the last 8 to 10 years, we've kind of been recession proof, right? And to get back to pre-COVID ADR, it's going to take us a while. At the same time, this piggyback on what we're talking about, cost. Cost is still there. We might be less on cost on some categories, but other costs are increasing, as we mentioned. But ADR is not increasing, and it's going to take a
Right.
while. So for the hotel owner, we really have to be pay attention to, you know, where we can cut costs to stay afloat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to chime in here as well. I think as far as, you know, the productivity from working from home, I think, going forward, it's going to be some kind of hybrid where certain teams can and certain teams can't, and companies are going to cost cut where they can. And if they see something that's just as productive dollars wise, they're going to let people work from home. I think it's going to be a hybrid. And as far as corporate travel goes, I don't see it happening until, I would say sometime around March of next year, where the corporate travel starts again, provided we have a vaccine. If there's no vaccine, I don't see big companies like, Baron, you said your wife works for Citibank. I don't see big companies letting their employees go back to work. In the office or doing business travel that's, unnecessary and that could cause lawsuits. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. But, moving back to the leisure business, we were talking, Ken had started talking a little bit about F&B, and I just wanted to touch on what's happening with the F&B market. Are people, going out to eat now in the restaurants or at the hotels, or are they just not because they took the vacation, they want to get out of the house, so that room service and that F&B component at the full service hotels, what's happening with that?
I would say, what I've heard through people that I just speak to, I think the brands did wonders when they thought of Top Bar
Mm-hmm.
because that concept has just now, during these times, even taken off.
Right.
You look at South Beach. Everybody I talked to down there is like, it's like out of this world. They're just, even though whatever's going on down there, personally, I wouldn't go down there right now, but whoever I talk to down there, this rooftop concept, New York City's got it. You talk about places, Texas have it, down in California, and they're able to open it up still with the social distancing aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as long as it's got the open air, I think the health officials were okay with it. I'm not sure about everywhere else, but only few areas that I know. But I think that's where it might go to again. I think that's where the F&B might have to be at. I don't think it's going to be, have it next to the front desk, make it fine dining. Now it's going to be just kind of towards this one segment, one age group that they want to probably gear towards instead of having a family experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of my 2 cents. Don't know if that's going to ever be like that, but based on what I'm seeing right now, I feel like that's the way it's going to be more profitable because as we know, alcohol and an F&B, it is the most profitable,
Of course it is.
and
Yeah.
and that's why we ended up doing the rooftop bars, and why everybody loved the rooftop bar. You go in December 20th or 21st, December 21st in New York City, right before Christmas, people are still going to the rooftop bar in -2 degrees. They really don't care. But, that just generated more income for that hotel than probably their nightly revenue.
Mm-hmm. Of
So,
course.
I think that's kind of the concept that's going to be really hot. It's already popular, and I think it became even more popular now during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Anyone else want to chime in on the F&B or?
yeah, I'll give you a personal experience that I had. So I've traveled one time so far during this pandemic, and I stayed at a resort in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
So, I was going into it that, oh, hey, what is, we're all having to adapt to the new norm. What is that new norm? And we hear all these things, but when you're actually, experiencing it's a different story. So this resort had minimized their offerings. Certain, like they might have 4 or 5 different avenues of choosing, food selections or places where you can get food from in the resort. Normally, where now they only have 2 places and they close earlier. Some of their bars are not even in existence, and you only have one option, and they close, let's say, at 10 p.m. And then after that, your only option is room service.
Right.
And the menus are very, minimized to maybe 3-4 items, and you still take 45 minutes to an hour to get the food because people are cutting on staff also. So it's an inconvenience to the consumer, but it's what the new norm is right now, right? And so I don't know how long this is going to last, but I think that not only at that resort that I was at, but I'm sure that a lot of full service hotels are experiencing this, and the guests are having to adapt to this.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in, and they're all related to finance and I think Shahid, you need to you need to help us out here. Ken, you had mentioned that Florida is a different country. I don't know if you're referring to all of Florida or just Miami, but we have one of our viewers asking about Florida, and this question is for Shahid. What are the top markets that private equity is looking to place their capital? Are they looking at Florida, or are they just saying, Miami, you really screwed this up here. We're not coming down here, or Orlando opening up Disney really fast.
Yeah,
what are you
it's
seeing as far as the private placement?
no, it's a great question because it's like right now I think we're looking at a hotel on the Riverwalk in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Up and down. I mean, Miami is pretty dead from any investment standpoint right now, just from what we're seeing. And any investment is all going to be preferred equity. If you have the right, I mean, Tampa, Orlando, and maybe even, I mean, it's not a real market, but up by Tallahassee, Panama City. I mean, I think those markets are untapped and really where private equity is going to find yield. Private equity is not going to chase the Miami distressed asset because Starwood Blackstone's already all over it. So it's very tough right now. And I think in markets that people aren't going to expect, like Tampa, Panama City, Jacksonville, that preferred equity is where we're getting indication on where they want to be. LP equity for a hotel right now is pretty tough. We're having very tough times even getting debt term sheets. So I think if a hotel operator is putting his business plan on potentially bringing in an LP right now, that's not going to work. They really need to have their equity lined up. And if they want any sort of leverage in those, say, tertiary or secondary markets, it's going to be preferred equity up to 80% of the stack as well. They're not going to take it up to 90%, which they were doing 2-3 years ago.
Okay. And then how about, there's a question about bankruptcy protection, which I was also going to ask you. What's going to happen in the industry? What do you see going on?
I mean, that's a tricky question, right? I mean, people are trying to do note financing right now in New York, and that's just not going to work. It's really, some of these brands and operators are just going to have to work deals out, right? It's similar to how the New York City developers started lending after 2008 because no one else had any sort of liquidity. So I think whether it's a hotel owner liquidating a few, or like an operator liquidating a few assets and putting more time into one, the point is there needs to be liquidity that's not there, and there's a lot of money that is saying they're going to invest, but they're really not. And the markets that we would like, Miami, New York, I mean, debt is all over the place for those. But again, the word private equity, I think a lot of people are misled because private equity is not really who's investing in those core markets unless they're institutional deals, because it simply doesn't make the yield that they need. So I think a lot of family offices and maybe even securities companies, that is what we're seeing too, companies that invest in public securities are also looking at like distressed hospitality plays as a sector. So right now there's way too much uncertainty, but I would stay away from gateways, like unless it's a real story. I mean, like right here, I live in Manhattan. I'm on 49th Street, and around the block they're renovating the Waldorf Astoria. It looks great, you know, and the listing will be beautiful on the new condos or whatever they're doing there. But no, it's not going to be touched, right? And if you talk to a private equity guy on Park Avenue, he's looking for that distressed urban asset that he's getting at 65 a key. So, and I don't want to sound like a pessimist. It's just what's really going on. And private equity, in my opinion, I would shy away from unless you really have a strong operating team, because they're really going to look at this to get in at a good basis. It's more on, you know, working with recapitalizations, whether it's syndicating some internal equity, or if it's even, you know, giving up an asset. If, say, a hotel owner owns 5 hotels, you know, you sell one and give yourself some own liquidity and weather the storm, knowing that ADRs are going down and occupancy is going to stay. So yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Well, you know, as far as financing goes then, you know, Ken had mentioned like there's owner financing. That's what's happening. That's what I'm seeing on my deals also. Either they're assuming a mortgage that's in place, or there's owner financing. Shahid, what other types of financing? We talked about private placement, but like what's happening with the CMBS? What's happening with, you know, all the other types of equity? Like if you wanted to buy a hotel, what do you do if there's no owner financing?
Yeah, right now it's all private. We got a bank deal done, but it was a war. And the banks, like one of the banks we work with, Live Oak, they told us they'll start looking in 2021 at new deals. So it's 1 to 3 year short-term paper, and it's expensive. It's between 7 and 11%, and if you can get good deals with seller financing, that works, but it's really just weathering the storm. CMBS market's not coming back anytime soon, really, because it was a 10-year product, and on stabilized yields, given what's going on right now, there's no way pricing works out for that. And then also the problem is with how expensive defeasance is, if you even are able to achieve a 10-year fixed CMBS loan or whatever it is, if anything goes wrong, there's no spread anymore. That it's too tight. If you get hit with defeasance, you're going to be in bankruptcy court. So I think it's all short-term paper for the next 2 to 3 years, and it's all private paper, which is why if there's portfolio owners, it's really about maybe a fire sale or just weathering the storm.
Thanks, Shahid. I want to circle back to Biren, just to touch a little bit more on AHOA and the API community, the Asian American Pacific Islander community, since you guys are the largest, I guess, group in the world you had mentioned, and in the U.S. I know you're so active and vocal. You know, what have you guys been doing specifically in Washington, or, you know, just to get your voices heard, that this is really, you know, all of this is really affecting the Asian American community? You know, I know you guys just had a conference, your big annual conference last week, which you were really busy with. You know, any highlights from that, or anything that you guys are doing that's helping, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first part of your question. I think that, you know, when this pandemic started, I think it was all new for all of us. So it was a learning curve for all of us. So we're trying to get as much information as we can, that we can educate not only our membership, but hotels all across the country. So we started doing a lot of virtual events like this one here. And we've held over 100 virtual events.
Wow.
That, you know, not only AHOA members can join, but anyone who wants to join. We felt like, you know, in this industry, we can help out everyone who wants it. So educating ourselves, educating the membership, educating the industry, what's happening. So we've had great speakers, and, you know, it's like I said, it's a learning curve for all of us. Every week is different. So, you know, we've done that. As you mentioned, DC, we are in our elected officials' ears every day. Okay. And we actually want people like AREAA and other associations who are in the hospitality segment to voice their opinions to them. Because, our elected officials, they don't know our industry like we know it.
Correct.
So when we talk about CMBS, we need to educate them of what we need. I mean, when PPP first came out, right, they didn't know, they came up with this relief thing, but they didn't dot their I's and cross their T's thoroughly, right? I mean, there was so many things that they needed to improve on to make sure that, the process was done properly and it was beneficial to hoteliers. So then we heard the concerns of our members and hotels across the country. We went back to them, and then they came up with this Flexibility Act that gave us a little bit more flexibility in the PPP. Now where we're at is that as I mentioned, we're still in their ears about CMBS. A lot of hotels have CMBS loans. And if they can't come up with something to mandate the services to come up with a solution to help the CMBS borrowers out, then they're going to be in big trouble, right? We're also wanting second round of PPP. There's $150 billion of dollars that's sitting there, right? That could be used for a lot of hoteliers still. There's also a Main Street lending facility that's out there, and they have $500 billion of money, dollars that's sitting there that's not being used. But hoteliers can't get access to that because there's so much red tape. So we're trying to educate them to say, hey, look, lay off some of this, the restrictions that you put on it where it can still benefit hoteliers. So educating the government elected officials is very key. I urge everyone to get involved in that. We're doing our part, I think, and to make sure that they're providing whatever relief they need. Like I said to you at the beginning of the call, that relief is one of the biggest things we need right now. We're in a liquidity bind for the most part, right? So we need them to understand that. We were the first ones to get affected in this crisis, and we'll probably be one of the last ones to get out of it.
Yes.
Right? As far as our convention, our 30th convention was last year in San Diego, and then this year our convention was supposed to be in April in Orlando, and obviously the pandemic happened, so then we pivoted and postponed it till August. Then Florida came up with the restrictions of we can't have a gathering more than 50 people.
Right.
Then in a matter of less than 6 weeks, we had to pivot to a virtual space. Yeah. And that was something new for all of us. We had a virtual trade show that we didn't know what we were going to expect. Some things that there were lessons that we learned that we could have maybe improved on. But overall, I thought it was a lot better than I even anticipated as a convention chair. We had great content. And this is the time that we need to educate hoteliers to how to navigate ourselves to the road to recovery, right? So we had several different panels with great speakers to just educate, with content that we need now to kind of, like I said, ride through these tough times.
Yeah, I mean, are you seeing the PPP coming through to the small businesses, or is it just going to the bigger hotel companies?
Well, see, right, government in DC has been on recess for last couple of weeks, right? So timing is key and it's essential right now. Like I said to you earlier, that forbearance is coming to an end for a lot of people, right? So we're pushing them to trying to get the second round out. They're listening to us, but with a divided Senate and House, things go so slow.
Right.
So hopefully here in the near future, some of this comes to fruition and helps us out.
Okay. I want to get to some of the other questions that are coming in from the people listening. I think this is for Ken. Are flags giving operators extensions on their franchise agreements or delaying the timing for their required PIPs? Or are they just saying, no, sorry, you have to spend the money. All of your TVs are outdated and you got to upgrade to your 36-inch?
I don't think that mean now. I think I think they're working with everybody. I've seen it personally. Speaking on just doing a project right now, and then I just speaking to the people from the franchise, it's like they're workable. They're understanding what's going on. Obviously, they're not going to tell you don't do it at all. That's not going to happen. They're going to give you probably a lead time where they're going to you're like, okay, 3 months from now, 4 months from now, you're still going to have to do what was required to do. And I think that's probably what I would probably come down to is that whatever was required of you to do before COVID is going to be required of you to do after COVID. You know, it's not going to change. Um, and I think when we were all speaking last time, and I mentioned about what was going on with breakfast, and that's the same thing with breakfast. It's not going to change what was pre-COVID, and it's not going to change after COVID. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I believe in the franchise fees from what I've kind of just heard and through how we've been dealing with things is that, you know, we're able to kind of work with different franchises. And I've heard that from everybody that they're able to work on doing some sort of negotiations with franchises to come down on their fees or extend the fees. But, you know, pips and all that, it's still they require you to do it. I know the QAs. Now the QAs have been a little different. I know IHG, based on we had a hotel in Florida that went through a QA with IHG. I think it was Florida or maybe it was Georgia. And they have a virtual QA system going. So they don't, it's kind of very unique to me. I've never ever seen anything like that. And I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. Um, and they're kind of doing a QA based on an iPad or a mobile device. And, you know, I think that's kind of where we're going to sit now. You know, where we're going to see less of the franchises corporate personnel at the hotels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the cost cut.
Yeah, I mean we've heard that across the
Mm-hmm.
board. I've seen Marriott do it, seen Hilton do it, IHG. So I think it's going to be a little bit more effective and also could be less effective. But and it's just probably going back to the cost thing is everybody's happy that costs are getting cut if you're the
Right.
owner, you know. So but operational wise, I think it's not only in this industry. Every industry has now found a way to cut costs. And do you think, in anyone's right mind, I'm not an owner, but if I was, I would be thinking the same way. Is
Right.
if I found a way to cut costs, I am going to keep taking it to the bank as long as I know the operations don't get disparaged in any way. You know, and that's why you have the airline business, you have the restaurant business, you have all these other businesses that are following a certain model right now. You know, and we might not see it, but there is a model out there that people are following and they know where that model is going to take them. So like Baron was saying, we have to find a way to cut costs because the revenue numbers are not going to be where pre-COVID was. You know, yes, we're going to see occupancy, but occupancy does not equal your bottom line to be bigger. You know, occupancy is going to equal where you find a way to cut that certain cost so you could minimize your bottom line to what it was before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's going to be tough, but hopefully the brands are workable, and I'm sure that's what Bjorn is here for. You know?
I was gonna direct it to Baron. I mean, has that been a complaint from your constituents, like that the franchises are they being workable, or are they just saying, no, this is, you
Yeah,
know,
I think that for the most part, all brands have given some kind of relief during this pandemic. You know, they get it. Is it enough relief of what the owners want? Probably not.
right,
Some have done more than others as far as the brands are concerned. But us as hoteliers, we're always in this time of need. This time for sure, we're needing more relief, right? I would think that some of the mandates, some of the amenity creeps, can be eliminated during this time. You know, for each brand to stay competitive amongst their counterparts throughout this 8 to 10 year recession-proof time, they've, you know, mandated so many new things, you know, and now in this time, it's crucial that they need to, be aware of this is hurting our bottom line. So our
Yeah.
members are asking that, hey, look, we get it from your end, but you need to look at it from our end also. It needs to be a workable win-win solution for both ends. It can't be just one way. So like I said, some brands have done more than others. I think this, when it comes to PIP and stuff like that, QAs, they're being flexible. But when, as Ken mentioned, breakfast and something like that, those are hot topics, right?
Right.
And I think that they could do a little bit better. I know that grab and go is in effect right now with a lot of brands, but
Yes.
are they going to go back to what it was pre-COVID as soon as this pandemic is over? Probably. And our breakfast costs are, significant, and it eats on our bottom line.
Yeah, of course. Of
And
course.
as I mentioned, especially with our ADR going back 15 years, it's tough.
And Darren, there's one other question about, Airbnb. And, 2 years ago when we did the panel, we had someone who was running Airbnbs. And, there is a question about disruptors such as Airbnb. Is there a feeling that COVID's going to reduce the desire of people to use those options, or no impact? Is it a concern right now, or it's just not even a topic of your hotel owners?
I mean, it's not on the forefront as it was a couple of years ago. I mean, it's
Right.
still on the radar with us, right? I mean, they're still
Yeah.
obviously a competitor. I think it varies on the traveler, right? Do they feel comfortable renting a home when they're out and about, or whatever? I mean, an apartment or whatever else compared to a hotel. I personally think the hotel route. I mean, I get it that you might be, encountering with other guests and stuff in the common spaces, but you can get, I mean, hotels are being more, they're being more ahead of the curve. I feel like, especially in this time, to make sure that the hotels are even cleaner than what they were in the past.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
So I think
And
that when people are debating if they should stay in a hotel or an Airbnb, I mean, cleaning one of those homes is a little bit tougher than cleaning a room, I think, right? And
100%. And sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, so I think that, I mean, it's obviously a disruptor. I don't know. I'm sure they're all struggling also, but I would urge the traveler or the consumer that I think the hotels are probably the safer route to go, especially in this time.
No, I agree. I think the hotels are definitely a safer route, especially if they're under some kind of franchise, because then they have, a mandate that certain rules must be followed. And with an Airbnb, it's kind of a free-for-all. So, yeah, there's one last question that we have, and I don't really know who to direct this to. It's about tax strategies, since we don't have any accountants here. But, I have a question saying, what types of tax strategies should hotel owners and operators be looking at? Tax abatements, hotel tax reliefs. I don't know if any of you have any background or any experience that can answer that question. No. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you this. We're working with the state and local municipalities on property tax.
Okay.
To, in this time to kind of give us some relief in that, right? Evaluations, especially with our, revenue dropping significantly from last year to this year. So I know from a property tax standpoint, we're trying to work with our state and local municipalities to try to, get that lowered in this time of need.
Thanks, Baron. Do any of you, we've run a couple of minutes over, but I think we had booked till a little after, just in case. Do any of you have anything else that you wanted to share about what you're working on, or, additional thoughts before we end the call today?
I'm actually thinking of moving to Italy right now.
Italy. Okay, well, they're done with Corona.
That's what I heard. But no, I mean, you know, I've just got pretty much that. I'm getting used to the South, being up from the Northeast for a long time, and getting used to this area. And I felt like, man, I just moved here, and
Yeah.
got into all this. But I feel like the industry's definitely going to come back very, very, very strong, and we might be surprised. I'm saying ADR here. Who knows? We might be shocked and I'm hoping we're shocked, because it means great for everybody, So
Right.
that's kind of where I set my mind, and I'm all about just all the positives.
Thanks, Ken. Vera and
Got it.
Shahid, anything else?
Yeah, I'll say that, from our association, I urge, not only AREAA members, but anyone else, in the industry to, use our platform. We have the educational resources, especially in this time. I mean, a lot of our things are recorded, or, you can go back and look at them even if they were a couple months ago. We've also started we partner with P&G, where we've come up with a program for cleanliness that people can take advantage of. And then, I'll leave you with this, that, our industry is resilient, right? We've gone
Yes.
through the 9/11 crisis. We've gone through the 2008 financial crisis. And now this was something that we never expected, but, we'll get through it, right? Sooner or later, we'll get through it. And as Ken mentioned, we'll probably be stronger than even before. So, I have some optimism. I hope Ken is right about March 5th of
March
2021.
5th.
But
We're calling you.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
I,
betting on it.
I wish everyone the best. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you, Ritu, for putting this together. I think it's a two-year war from a financing standpoint, and then hopefully, yeah, like Ken and Byron said, I mean, the industry's gonna come back, right? It's just about time, the vaccine, and really seeing how these businesses react.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time, and thank you to AREAA again for all the support and for helping our members with all this great information. So again, our conference is October 14th to 16th. Please register for that. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ritu.
Bye.
Viren.